Facebook buying Oculus Rift.
I heard like about a dozen
Don't
things in there. They're
start
like,
me
oh,
about
those
that
are
shit.
good. Yeah.
Don't even
I
start
would
me with the
actually
Oculus
like to
crap.
maybe talk about Facebook and Oculus Rift. I'm in the mood to talk about it now.
Ooh.
Seriously, let's hear it because it's
Ooh.
Okay.
I suspect he's going to come at in a contrarian way, because
Well,
everyone's against it.
Well, okay. I will play devil's advocate just because I am on the side that I
Whoa,
think it's bad.
Council
Are
is
we
in
recording?
session.
Zero.
Council is in
Yes.
session.
Council is in session.
Debate the Oculus Rift conundrum with Facebook. I gotta look at my book here,
One
even though
person
nothing's
talks at a
wrote down.
time.
Yep. Vinny, you have the floor.
Unless we want to scream at the other person for their ignorance.
All right, so I think it's pretty much universal that, like, from a gaming perspective, on surface value, that it's a bad thing that Facebook acquired Oculus, just because in the direct statement that Zuckerberg gave to his shareholders and publicly, he said immediately once they're done establishing the gaming side of Oculus, he's moving into movies and interactive education, which is all good and fine, but in the very rationale of thinking about, once the gaming is done. No, it's a progressive work. You know what I mean? It's a progressive console that needs to be developed on constantly for it to be successful over the years. Because you see on the developer end, people figuring out what exactly to do with games. Actual, game design, game mechanics are being redefined at the very core and fundamental levels, for people that are developing, the very few that are developing on Oculus. But, so would you all agree that it's a bad idea that they acquired?
I would agree. I would agree that yes, gaming does need like constant development. Because if there wasn't constant development, no one would have ever figured out. Like, this is just totally a one-off thing that came off to my mind in the first place when you said it. No one would have figured out that you could you can hook up your Kinect sensor for an Xbox 360 to your PC, have it take a picture of you, and you can import that picture into Minecraft.
Right.
No one would have figured that out if some idiots weren't developing like something to do in their off time that happened to turn out pretty freaking amazing. I would, however, not agree that it is a bad thing for Facebook to acquire Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
My
Whip.
and hold on. And even PC Gamer had an article about it, like with their opinions on it, and I completely agree with their opinions that even though it may seem as a bad thing, because everything that is tied with Facebook is usually like you think about Farmville, you think about Mafia Wars, you think about all those stupid little games. Jesus, shut up, people out there. That were developed by Zynga and other like really crappy game developers that are just there to get your money, and they think that's the way Oculus is going to go with it. I don't think that's the case. I think Facebook is just going to be like, you know what? Here's a bunch of money. Here, go run with it and develop something that's really good.
Yeah.
Whiplash.
Well, I agree with what Niall just said. I do think they're going to probably try to use it in other areas we're not even considering. Like the possibility of virtually attending a lecture or something like that. I think that the Oculus Rift is an amazing technology, and I think that VR, when it comes to its full fruition, is going to be the ultimate new immersive thing. But I think there's a little bit of panic about this whole Facebook thing, as if it's not like Oculus Rift is the only solution to VR. There's already other people. Sony has one in development for the PS4. They don't have like some kind of monopoly on it. If you're unhappy that Facebook has it and what they're going to do with it, rest assured, if it's a successful technology, there will be plenty of opportunities to enjoy it in gaming to its fullest potential, if not through Oculus Rift, through other sources.
Well spoken, guys. That's for sure. I mean, my personal thoughts on it. I mean, I found it a very interesting and shocking move to wake up to one morning. Facebook buys Oculus Rift. I'm sure everyone was quite shocked to see it at first.
That caught me out of left field.
Yeah, big time. And
right in GDC as well.
There's also a lot of speculation that they've done it just because they're a big corporation and they're trying to, spread their money around across a number, like diversify their portfolio, so to speak. Although the statement from Zuckerberg does imply that he really wants to try to embrace the technology with some kind of social media angle.
Right, yeah.
It's a very progressive move for Facebook. I mean, I've never been a fan of them to begin with. I kind of find it really
Clearly.
annoying that, well, they integrate themselves into everything, and there's people who don't want to do that. They don't want Facebook, and it's kind of setting like
Yes.
there's a certain amount of people who don't want that, and I feel like if they were to, because Facebook likes to leave their mark wherever they go, period. I'm worried that they're going to taint a software that already has a huge future ahead of it, regardless of if it's tainted or not. It's
But there'll
probably
be
going to
other
be
there'll be other options.
exactly,
There will
and
be.
and I like that you brought that up because there will be other options. It's not a solo technology. There's another company upstarting that's bringing a very realistic kind of virtual environment projector, and I forget what that's
The
called.
Korean one.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's extremely interesting. I found that
Yeah.
more interesting than
It's going,
Oculus.
it's going more for like an AR versus VR, like augmented reality.
Exactly, and I feel
That
in
Oh no,
being
that
said,
sounds very cool.
Yeah.
I've thought about that before, like something you could put on like goggles where you could be in a normal environment, but it would superimpose over the environment in some way so that you could like imagine like a paintball game where the walls and stuff are just like foam, but you're wearing goggles and it has the appearance as if you're like in like these stone corridors or something like that, and they're all laid out in the same configuration as what you're seeing, so that you're in a real environment still, but it's I don't know if I'm explaining that well.
no,
Well, yeah,
brilliantly.
it's like the idealistic like Star Trek next gen holodeck kind
Yeah,
of deal.
a step closer to the holodeck than just having
Exactly.
goggles on, looking around and going, "Wow, this is amazing,"
Instead
but
of
actually
taking
moving around in the
experience,
environment.
yeah. Instead of taking the experience to the player, it's more about projecting the experience
taking the
around
player
the
to the
player.
experience.
Yeah. All right. Well,
That being said, though, I think that the amount of people that don't use Facebook out of all internet users is actually becoming a minority now, since Facebook has such a huge popularity. I think that
Yeah,
there are going to be some people who didn't know about
I think that
some
plays
things
into it
that
a lot
Facebook is
too.
now acquiring, and they're going, here, look at this really cool things that you don't know about, but we have it. You can have it now.
I think that plays into it though a bit too. The popularity and overwhelming, like, in your face of Facebook everywhere is part of what people reject about the idea, because with all due respect, I think that some people are just kind of like hipster about it, like, oh, it's the cool thing, so I don't want nothing to do with it. I mean,
Sure.
it's,
I'm not cool. I'm not trying to be cool. I just don't like to be forced to do things. To
I don't like
participate in
Facebook.
things.
I hate it, honestly.
Yeah,
I think most of the shit on there is retarded and stupid, and I feel sorry for the people that post that crap, those stupid motivational things that make no sense all the time. Believe me, I hate it too. I wasn't trying to pass judgment on anyone here.
I'm not a hipster. I don't know why Niall tried to refocus that towards me. I
I didn't mean that in anyone.
Oh, I know. Niall's just a bastard. Anyway,
He's gonna be the
way I
fucking
use Facebook,
the foil in this debate, isn't he?
it's great.
the way I use Facebook is I never post. I never make posts. I use it for all the companies I'm interested in, like Blizzard, and I follow PC Gamer, I follow Blizzard, I follow a couple of other game development companies, and they post news and information on there. So I get
follow
deals,
those
I
the
get
least.
information, and then
Because all they do is post
I,
fucking hype all the time and bullshit. I don't care.
that's fine. I like keeping up on things, and I just stalk people. I don't look at their profiles. I just read whatever they post.
I'm
and I
gonna
keep
have
up with
to
people back home.
stop you there, Niall, because we're getting a little off topic here for
Yeah.
our
I was
podcast
done.
today.
sad.
We'll be
I
ending
would
that
like
with
to-
That's what happens.
we'll be ending this with Niall stalks people on Facebook. So
It's relevant. It was about
It was
Facebook, and I
relevant.
think it's
was.
examining why people dislike Facebook is an element of it.
Thanks, Niall.
So if I had a,
And I'm not
if I had
saying
an
I love it
Oculus
either.
Rift
Like I
connected
said,
to
it's
Facebook, I could
just.
look
Of
at their
course.
pictures in like real life.
Anyway.
I see it as a
Well,
tool
Think of that
for
creepy
putting out
stalkers.
information about what I'm doing, and that's really all I try to use it for. I barely ever
Sure.
even read other people's walls anymore or anything. It's
A networking tool.
yeah.
Well,
Yes.
the reason why I just making sure everyone's on the same page, and I'm pretty sure universally gamers are, it leaves a sour taste in the mouth no matter what, just because Oculus was such a grand prospect on the horizon. But if I was to play devil's advocate and really, kind of what at least half of my brain is telling me from a business position is that this actually could be a really good opportunity to push VR as a gaming side into much of a more cohesive experience. So basically, like, the reason why, if you look into more of the psychology of why mergers, acquisitions happen in the business world, especially on more of a startup level, in the way that Oculus was, being the very starlet of Kickstarter that they were. They were obviously seeing these competitors come on the horizon in Sony's Morpheus, I believe it's called, the augmented reality one that you mentioned, Sarah, and
Damn Koreans.
what's that?
Damn Koreans.
I forget if it's Korean or not. Whatever. And then we have the very interesting thing of this complementary tech to Oculus. Primarily, I forget what the two companies are called, but the one that is the octagon like trackpad that adds directional movement.
Hydra.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. And then there's also another company that gives basically one-to-one control of limbs by selling these motion things that wrap around with, a quick little Velcro band, and they do one-to-one sensors for your limbs and everything like that, and spatial control. So we
That'd
have
be pretty
all this stellar, complementary technology coming out almost, directly for Oculus Rift, just because it's been the granddaddy of it so far. But it's not cohesive, on a consumer level, in a consumer market. Is the average player going to be like, okay, I bought an Oculus, I have a good headset, so I have visual and sound, but am I really going to purchase this trackpad and then maybe even all these motion sensors for my arms and legs? Probably not, and it doesn't make for good sales from a marketing end. So one of the best things, and I think the biggest opportunity come from this, is that coming new into the market in this acquisition on Facebook's end, they don't have this attrition, this wearying of spirit that Oculus and to a certain extent Sony has, that you have to deal with when you have an idea established in a market and then you have competitors knocking on your door. With Facebook being new and having gusto in the market, I think the best thing that they could do is pick up for a much less substantial price than $2 billion that they picked up Oculus for, but pick up these complementary tech companies that are building these that trackpad and the sensors and everything else. And make a cohesive single market experience, a single market VR experience, and that right there is doing something extremely progressive with
That
what
sounds
could
great from a business point of view, but it sounds terrible from a customer point of view. I don't want to be locked in to have to. I think that was the point. People were rejecting that they bought it, and then if all of a sudden they are monopolizing it, ultimately that's going to make people more unhappy, I would think. But from a business point of view, I agree.
I just think that Facebook has a bad name. I mean, if Twitter were to have bought Oculus Swift for two million or whatever it was, 2 million, 2 billion, whatever, no one would have batted an eye. It's just that
What if it was
Facebook has
Google?
a bad name. It's associated with, or
What do you mean?
if
If
it
it
was
was
Google,
Twitter,
people
I
would go
would
crazy if it was
double take.
Google.
Because where the fuck did Twitter get the money for that?
Right.
Yeah. But what if it was Google?
I
A lot
would
of
not.
people hate Google now too.
I would not call Twitter a like an underplayed
I'm
company.
not saying that, but fucking $250 million, was it? Or no?
No, it was like I thought it was 2 billion.
Was it a $2 billion deal?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think it
Yeah.
was.
$2 billion.
I believe so. I mean, I forget actually how it.
$2 billion. That seems.
I
Like
know 50 was in cash, 50 was in Facebook stock.
Facebook stock.
And that's just what they've paid to acquire all the existing, they've still got to then invest in the further research and development and production and everything like that to get it out there. And let's face it, there are some people out there like Notch and stuff. I mean, some people are calling them ignorant, but there are people out there saying that they're no longer interested in developing for it. So from a pragmatic point of view, they've got to have a little concern if it's going to hurt them or not.
I just think, what I was saying, with creating a cohesive experience, I think it would suit a VR experience much better. Because if there's any place that the Oculus is going to trip over and fall over itself, is that if the ever illustrious immersion in a game is broken by something that's missing from the experience, whether that be having to be in a controller or whatever it means to the player in this new kind of VR gaming that would break that immersion. I think creating a cohesive experience throughout, that's a fantastic opportunity.
I'd like to interject on that. Definitely the immersion will certainly be affected if there is in general in VR, the whole immersion aspect is going to have to be done perfectly, as the whole uncanny valley is just god awful. I mean, you play a very highly realistic simulated game like, let's say, LA Noire or something like that, and if something goes wrong within that game, the immersion's going to be instantly taken out. Bugs,
Right.
things like that, it's going to be unacceptable, and things like that will have to be almost expunged if they want to get the immersion completely down, because
Can I interject on this though?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I agree completely, but I think you guys are talking about like long term. Like I see this as baby steps. We've had VR in different forms that has failed in the past because the technology is only just really now capable of really doing its service. And I don't know that, especially since it's still kind of bulky and being developed. I mean, I don't know if I want to stand there with a bunch of appliances on my head, on my arms, walking. I don't mind just throwing a headset on and holding the controller. I don't mind taking it in steps. I think that will be the ultimate experience, but I think it's going to evolve through those steps of starting up. Just alone having a headset is going to be 100 times more immersive than a monitor for me. That'll be enough for me for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I won't necessarily want to get up and walk around on a pad. Oh, please.
I would like to inject.
Go.
Quick Google search throws Twitter's value from last September 2013, at 14 billion.
This isn't relevant. Damn it, not.
You asked.
It's not relevant when it counters what Cyril said. That's what he means.
Okay. God, Niall, damn it.
Checkmate,
So,
bitch.
Anyway,
I get what you're saying, Whip. With like, maybe it would be better to have smaller steps so people get familiar with VR tech, and then.
I'm not saying as a policy they could do what they want. I'm saying for me personally, I don't mind it. I'm not in a rush for it to get all that interconnected.
Right.
I think the technology will get smaller and easier and better. Just think about now but I'm sure that even in the best case, the thing you're talking about, you've probably got like a bunch of shit strapped to your arms and you're standing on a pad and you got a heavy thing on your head and
that's it.
It's not quite
graceful.
I'm thinking it'll be better to have that in like 10 or 20 years
Gundam
when it's
suit.
like really holograms being projected around you, I guess. I don't know.
No, yeah, I totally agree, because there needs, the consumer needs to be saturated to the idea, So that's definitely, no, I agree. That's definitely a good counterpoint to, Facebook trying to push forward potential, cohesive experience. And I think it would also benefit developments of games much better, because instead of developers having to grapple with all these new ways to design thing around how the player moves in perspective and whatnot, having them have to juggle through all the things in movement and one-to-one motion.
Yeah, they need controller support and the pad support and all of it.
It might be too much, Yeah.
I just thought of a hilarious scene in my head.
And then add in one of those sticks where you control aircraft, and like you're all of a sudden you're upside down. What the hell?
Picture in an arcade, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got your VR
what?
area. You got an arcade.
Like what?
Oh, what?
Okay,
Good joke.
No, he cut out for me. You cut out for me. But yeah,
you kids don't know what arcades are.
But you got your arcade corner with your VR area, and you could sign into Facebook at it. That's the future.
Oh, fuck you. Yeah, I'm switching sides now. That's a good point.
I was waiting for you to be like, you got that little pad on the ground, you got all these wires,
and there's that beautiful.
Arms and legs,
it's already in how many games? How many games you got to admit yourself? It's like, do you want to link this to your Facebook?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Annoying as fuck. Yeah. But when you said arcade, I want to say
one thing.
Go ahead.
I've done that with one thing, and I link my Facebook account to my 9gag account while I'm on my phone, so I could just scroll through quickly without like having to worry about anything. It's just really simple to do.
The Sims is probably the worst offender. Like, you can share your stupid memories and the whole works. And, oh my god.
Wow.
But what I just wanted to say about immersion again, when you said about arcade, I always thought back in the day, I imagined this game even before. This is different than VR in a way. Imagine like you climbed into like a cockpit with a thing that closed over you, and basically it was like you were inside an X-wing fighter, but the metal seams between the glass, they'd be just screens. And so you'd be able to look all around, and it would all be interconnected. And then if the thing moved as well, like on hydraulics, that would be like an incredibly immersive experience, like where you could look all around you, up, down, and that to me.
Or those games that you found in arcades where like you got into a booth and you sat down in a chair, and when you moved the control or the joystick left or right, like your entire chair would spin.
Right. Well,
and
imagine
the
that.
screen would stay in front of you, it would spin.
But you're in a completely sealed environment where the only input you have are screens surrounding you that are all perfectly timed and synced up so that to provide a 3D. Amazing. That's like the same thing as like VR, but even like on a bigger scale, because instead of it being like right on your face, like 3 inches from your eyes, it's kind of like more giving you a little more room around you. Yeah, creating an alternate reality.
People would die in those pods.
I think the
I'd
most
love to
amazing
play
thing
that.
in the world, like in like right now, the most amazing thing in the world, like that example you gave of X-wing, where like if you were just in like a little capsule that you could like flip upside down and do like backflips in it and shit, that would be so fucking awesome.
To some extent, what I'm describing is already existing in the form of flight simulators, like that they use at like airline levels. So, but I'm talking about like one for a gaming purpose, something where you could really feel like you were completely encased inside of this cockpit.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a combat simulator too. I don't know if I'm the only one, but come on, who wants to combat simulator with swords and shit in like an arena?
Yeah, that would be cool.
I thought you said cat simulator.
Hell, that would be fucking great too.
Yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Goat simulator, cat
you should
simulator.
Try goat simulator first.
I think any 3D environment, especially explorative or whatever style, would be amazing in VR, whether you had the walking device or controller, just from the headset alone. Go ahead.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Combat simulator with Daisy installed.
Oh, just stop it.
Oh my.
I still have to get that.
God.
I'd just kill myself in there. So I could never leave that world.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Which communicates to the grand, the larger conversation of like what's gonna happen with regulatory stuff, and probably the new rebirth of the video games are corrupting the youth and whatnot.
Youth never leave their fucking rooms or houses.
Well, there's an interesting ethical question. What happens when we reach a point where you can have reality that someone can exist in where they can be totally self-sufficient, not costing anyone else anything, is there a moral or ethical question anymore as to whether if they want to spend the rest of their time there,
Whether they should or shouldn't.
or whether we should be forced
That already
to
happens.
move or not, from it.
Right.
It does happen on a
Star
small
Trek
scale.
kind of got into this a little bit on some holodeck episodes, but
It does already happen though. Like
World
if
of
you got a
Warcraft.
30-year-old sitting in your mother's basement who like just plays games all day and every day, she's like, "Here's your sandwich, dearie." I mean, you've already got that.
The difference about this ethical question, though, would be the...
so he's dependent on someone there, though. Like, what if he could be in like a simulation of some kind, like floating in a tank, and I guess some kind of minimal sustenance was being provided that didn't cost any energy to produce or wasn't costing anyone else money. But he, is that a life anymore, or is he taking up space or resources that for when he's not living a real life, that kind of thing?
See, that's the first thing that came to mind for me would be space. I mean, unless within this virtual world you could perhaps do things that would affect the physical world. I mean, like let's say this virtual world had its own economy that leaks into our real world. I mean, isn't that just as important to have consumers in that world as it would be to have in the real world, since it's a fluctuating economy?
Mm.
Yeah, you could go so crazy with it.
Or if this person who's living inside this capsule is like controlling a super badass super soldier who's on another planet fighting aliens that are trying to kill us. I mean,
taking it up of
possibilities.
Philosophical meta layer or something like that. We could already be considered to be living in our reality itself. Might not be that disjointed from some virtual reality that we ourselves will create one day. Like
we're starting to leak into other topics here.
Yeah.
what Rene Descartes,
as is my way.
Universe theory.
We do know, however, when Sero finally does get into a virtual reality where he feels as though it is real, he won't know the correct shoe size to put on.
Seriously? Brilliant. I'm gonna have such a problem with that. I mean,
Folks,
especially if it's
he
a
wears
medieval
a size
one.
22, if you can believe
22. Kingdom Hearts style. Big shoes. Big floppy shoes like Disney.
Let me just go steal Ronald McDonald's shoes for you real quick.
There we go. Well,
Speaking of which, have you seen the commercials for Taco Bell's breakfast where they have people named Ronald McDonald endorsing it?
Brilliant marketing. Brilliant marketing.
All right,
I feel like
guys.
it's kind of trite. Like,
I'm going to end the podcast here. Thank all our viewers for joining us, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go,
Hope
guys.
you enjoyed it.
Wow,
All right.
y'all were slow.